You ever watch a movie and go, wait, this is supposed to be romantic? Yeah, that's Marnie. It's not romantic. It's not suspenseful. It's just deeply unsettling. Hitchcock thought he was making a psychological romance about a broken woman with deep trauma and the powerful man who loves her enough to uncover her past and save her. Again, no, this is not a love story. It's a psychological horror show wearing a nice hat. Marnie isn't really about trauma. It's Hitchcock's revenge fantasy, disguised as a thriller, played out on an actress who dared to say no. And the real plot? It's about a man trying to fix a broken woman by dominating her. Also, it's not just on screen. The behind-the-scenes mess, it's even darker. Welcome to Real Talk, where we spill the tea on movies, media, and all the madness in between, with wit, sass, and zero sugarcoating. The movie opens with a woman, dark hair, suitcase, walking to the train station. Then we're in an office she's just robbed. No one really knew her. She was hired for her looks. Classic. Enter Mark, Sean Connery, a client of the company. He notices her, and when he's told about the heist, he shows interest. Red flag much? Then she hits a hotel. Hitchcock makes his cameo, of course. And surprise, our thief is actually blonde. She heads to the stables, cue horse girl moment, and then off to visit her cold, stiff mother. Her name? Marnie, played by Tippi Hedren. Marnie sends her mom money every month and begs for affection, but gets nothing back. We also learn she's terrified of the color red and thunderstorms, but don't worry, that'll get explained later in the most ridiculous way possible. She scams her way into a new job, at Rutland & Co. Surprise! Mark owns it. He recognizes her, remembers everything, and instead of reporting her, he hires her, watches her, lets her plan her next heist. Then when she finally makes her move, instead of turning her in, he blackmails her into marriage. Yup, either marry him or go to jail. Cute. And the honeymoon? He finds out she won't let any man touch her. Zero physical contact. At first, he's patient, but when he snaps, he forces himself on her. It's rape, plain and simple. The next morning, she tries to drown herself. When they get back, Mark's sister-in-law gets nosy. Marnie's horse dies tragically, and Mark, because he's just so helpful, drags her back to her hometown to confront her mother and solve her trauma. And then we get the big reveal. When Marnie was little, her mother, who was a sex worker, had a violent fight with a client. Little Marnie killed him with a fireplace poker. There was blood, a thunderstorm, and boom, that's why she hates red, lightning, and any kind of physical intimacy with men. Seriously? That's the emotional payoff? Like, boom, fixed. Please. The plot holes are wild. The psychology? Laughable. Mark blackmails her, gaslights her, breaks her down, forces her to depend on him. And the movie wants us to think this is some kind of healing journey. When Marnie pleads, "Let me go," Mark says, "I can't turn you loose. If I let you go, I'm criminally and morally responsible." And when she says, "You don't love me, I'm just something you've caught. You think I'm some sort of animal you've trapped." He responds, "That's right, you are. And I've caught something really wild this time, haven't I? I've tracked you and caught you, and by God, I'm gonna keep you." Yeah, creepy. As hell. Or about this other unsettling little exchange. Mark, before I was drafted into Rutland's, I had notions of being a zoologist. Marnie, oh, does zoology include people, Mr. Rutland? Mark, well, in a way, it includes all the animal ancestors from whom man derived his instincts. Excuse me, what? So, basically, he sees her as a wild animal. Something primal, something to study, something to trap. It's not flirtation, it's foreshadowing. Mark doesn't want a partner. He wants a case study, a damaged specimen to observe, analyze, and ultimately own. And Marnie? She's the butterfly pinned to his wall. You've probably heard people defend him, but Mark helps her, he protects her, he encourages her to read books. Okay, but so does every cult leader. Mark didn't love her, he possessed her. He only fell for her because she was damaged. That's not love, that's ego. He wanted to be the man who fixed her, molded her, and kept her under control. That's not therapeutic, that's predatory. And somehow the movie frames him as a wounded savior, a man doing the noble work of healing his wife. Like, what? The most interesting thing about this movie isn't the plot. It's the real reason Hitchcock made it. The script, the casting, the abuse, all of it. Let's talk about it. Now let's talk cast, Sean Connery. As Mark, Predator with a psychology book. So how did James Bond go from shaken not stirred to let me gaslight my traumatized wife? Mark isn't a husband. He's a captor with good hair. Mark doesn't protect Marnie. He dominates her, studies her, pushes her to confess, and then forces her to be grateful. He's Hitchcock's mouthpiece in a suit, his on-screen stand-in. Connery was already famous for Bond, but he wanted to break out of the typecast. Working with Hitchcock? Prestige move. But prestige came at a price. You know that horrible honeymoon scene? Yeah. The original writer, Evan Hunter, refused to write it. He said it was wrong. So Hitchcock fired him and hired J. Preston Allen instead. A woman. She had no issue writing it. In fact, she told Hunter, "That scene is why Hitchcock's making the movie." Let that sink in. Let's be honest, it was the early 60s. Marital rape wasn't even a crime in most places, including the US and UK. That concept wasn't widely recognized until decades later. The rape wasn't a plot twist, it was the mission statement. And audiences, they let it slide. Because back then, if a handsome man said it was love, people just nodded. To them, Mark was a strong man helping a fragile woman heal. But no, Mark is Hitchcock, period. For me personally, I don't find young Sean Connery attractive, but older Connery, he aged like fine scotch. The beard, the gravel voice, the swagger, it all just clicked later. Hitchcock's self-insert, the fix-her fantasy. And he's not even subtle about it. A man who becomes obsessed with a flawed woman, thinks he can mold her into his ideal version, who ignores her pain to fulfill his fantasy. That's not just Mark. That's Hitch in a nutshell. And the wildest part? He was more invested in controlling Tippi Hedren than writing a decent script. Tippi Hedren as Marnie, the actress. He couldn't control, so he tried to break her. Tippi Hedren was a fashion model turned actress, discovered by Hitchcock. He cast her in The Birds, 1963, made her a star, then became obsessed. When Grace Kelly slipped away, literally married off to Monaco, Hitchcock's obsession intensified. Tippi didn't want to play Marnie, but she was under contract. He made sexual advances toward her, expecting her to be emotionally and physically dependent on him. When she rejected him, he retaliated. He forced her into scenes she hated, including the infamous rape scene. He isolated her, blocked her Oscar campaign, sabotaged her career. Tippi was under contract. She had no power, and Hitchcock knew it. He refused to release her from her contract, deliberately derailing her career out of spite. Marnie became more than just a movie. It became a mirror of her real-life abuse. Tippi was enduring behind the scenes, but she never stayed silent. Later, Tippi said, "He ruined my career, but he didn't ruin my life." Mic drop. And that's why Tippi Hedren is a queen. And for the record, yeah, she's Dakota Johnson's grandma. So don't be surprised if Dakota's fierceness is generational. And was Tippi a brilliant actress? She was solid. But Hitchcock didn't cast women for talent. He cast them for fantasy. Let's be clear, Marnie is a mess. A creepy, uneven, deeply disturbing mess. And the only reason it stays relevant? Because of the dark drama behind the scenes and what it reveals about Hitchcock's toxic obsession with women, especially blonde ones. This isn't a film about healing. It's a film about control. It romanticizes trauma bonding. It presents male dominance as therapy. Mark raped her, coerced her, gaslit her, diagnosed her, married her, all while telling her it was for her own good. And the movie frames this as love. And watching it now, the message is just plain gross. So after all that pain, all that trauma, all that manipulation, we get Mommy's monologue, that lovely little playoff. "I was cold to you because I was trying to protect you." Seriously? That's not healing. That's Hitchcock trying to tie up trauma with a bow. The mother in Marnie is another version of his usual icy, withholding woman, something he often wrote and maybe felt in real life. And rather than explore real trauma, he gives us a melodramatic monologue to make the audience go, "Oh, so that's why." And then comes Marnie's final line, "I'd rather stay with you." That's not just a line. That's Hitchcock's fantasy ending. After all the manipulation, the violation, the pain, she stays. She submits. That wasn't Marnie talking. That was Hitchcock writing the ending he wanted from Tippy in real life. Marnie isn't misunderstood. Marnie is Hitchcock's rage and resentment when women won't play along. It's Hitchcock, through Mark, playing out his real-life obsession with breaking Tippy. This movie is a peek into Hitchcock's mind, especially his deeply messed up relationship with women, particularly blonde actresses he tried to mold, control, and possess. Hitchcock once said it himself. Blondes make the best victims. They're like virgin snow that shows up the bloody footprints. Cool on the outside, vulnerable inside. That was his obsession. And off-screen? He didn't want to direct blondes, he wanted to own them. Marnie isn't a fun watch, but it is an important one, especially if you want to understand how Hollywood sold control and called it romance. And the worst part? This wasn't even the most disturbing example. There's another movie, even more famous, where Hitchcock doesn't just break a woman. He rebuilds her in his own image. She's not even allowed to exist unless it's on his terms. But we'll talk about that next time.